Hey, how's it going? All right, this is really originally for my nephew, niece, kid, and their friends, and some of my friends who've asked for my opinion on volleyball arm swing. First of all, to let you know quickly, I've coached for many years. I haven't a bit since I kind of co-parent 7 kids, but I played a lot of volleyball, pretty high level. Never been on a national team, but I do pride myself in I think having a really great technique. With at least a philosophy of good technique. And I'm 5'8", had a 41-inch vertical or so I really had to figure myself out to go against the big guys. And I think I had a reputation of having a pretty unpredictable and an arm swing that had pretty good power for a guy my size and unpredictability in terms of how I swung. So I want to share this philosophy with you. I didn't want to say that when you get to the higher level, once you have the muscle memory and you'll see people doing different swings, and that's cool. Like Ingepath, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys because he does the craziest arm swings and craziest things, and it still looks amazing, right? The other thing is, I want to support you guys and girls in building a swing that not only is like insanely powerful and effective, but it minimizes injury and wear and tear, right? So let's start with a few things. Now, when people think of hitting the ball, like all they think is like hitting the ball, but really before you hit the ball, you actually have to jump, right? And often when you're just even peppering back and forth, in our heads, we don't imagine the arm swing is part of a jump. We just imagine hitting the ball. And I find when you don't think about hitting the ball and jumping part, your swing's actually different because so many times I see some swings and I'm like, people can't jump like that. So number one rule before hitting is to jump. And so your arm swing needs to integrate well with the ability, with your ability to jump as high as possible, and then be able to, really hit the ball. So when people jump, you're obviously jumping with two hands, right? Like so, however you get high is that swing needs to include the arm of getting as high as possible. So you can't go like this, or you can't just jump up like this because you won't get any height. So let's go back from step one and talk about the arm swing. Now, so again, first thing is get up, but now once you're up with an arm swing that helps you get up, what you always hear most people say, or a lot of people say, is the bow and arrow. So when people do the bow and arrow, right? And so the question is, when you see pictures, like it looks really nice when you're doing like that picture perfect bow and arrow, right? And people assume that as long as you get to the bow and arrow, you'll be great. In my opinion, it's how you get to the bow and arrow would determine how effective your arm swing is and how biomechanically safe the arm swing as well, right? And so let's talk about the arm swing that I don't believe is good. And what you'll often see people is they'll do this. The arm comes out. And by the way, taller people have the advantage of not needing a great arm swing, but if you're tall and or you jump high and you have an effective arm swing, I believe you are basically world-class, unstoppable, and I'm freaking jealous of you, right? So now what you always see is, because it looks cool when the arm swings like this and they come down like this, and by the way, an arm swing, when you're actually hitting, you're reaching high. So when you're peppering, you're kind of just doing this, but when you're actually jumping, the angle, you're actually reaching a little bit higher. There's a bit of a shoulder reach, right? So even though I'm doing this, you'll see that when you're swinging, you're actually reaching high. I'll talk about power in a little bit. There's some swing philosophies that talk about power, and so we're going to include that in this conversation. So you're going to see this, and we're going to talk about biomechanically, body-wise, why this is not great. And then we'll talk about strategically why this is not as efficient as it can be. So first, when you swing like this, what happens, the body needs to pull the muscle in as you come in, and then you could start swinging down. And when your hand comes like this, you also could have a tendency of swinging the arm as well, right? And as you'll see a lot of people do this, watch. And first one, you pay attention to the elbow, right? When you do this, you see this almost like circular motion of the elbow, which is what happens when you swing the arm out. This, after a lot of hits, eventually you're going to see people saying I have elbow problems. And because there's this overcompensation or compensation to pull the arm back, including the elbow, what creates is this abrasion on your shoulder. So you'll see a lot of people who have shoulder problems, and there's a lot of shoulder surgery in volleyball, right? And so that's biomechanically the reason number one why you don't want to do this. I will talk about the more effective way, in my opinion. The other reason is strategically. Now, when you want to hit a ball, you want to hit with as much power as possible, and you want to try not to be blocked. And so the ability to make a quicker arm swing and in a way where you could redirect the ball as hard as you can without being read would be an amazing accomplishment. So strategically, if your hand's up on the side like this and you want to hit straight down, yeah, so it comes down and the arms come straight down. That's cool. If you want to hit that way and you cut the ball to your left, it comes like this, and what often you'll see is this, right? But if you want to cut the ball to the right, if the arm's like this, you'll see the body compensates and the body needs to turn to redirect the ball. All this creates a longer arm swing. And what do I mean by a longer arm swing? If I had a little thing on my wrist that tracks the distance that my hand moves, and on a computer monitor you see and you measure the distance, if the hand's coming up here, now it's going to measure this distance out here, it's going to measure the distance back here, and it's going to measure the distance when it hits the ball. It forms like a triangle. You can measure that distance and it's going to equal a certain distance. And I believe that distance makes it long. It creates a lot of compensation to your body to get to the hitting position. And because it's a longer arm swing and you're trying to go as fast as possible, again, using muscle and body compensation, your hit becomes less effective. It becomes more readable, all right? So let's talk about the effective arm swing. All right, so I'm going to use this wall here. I'm going to quickly check about what it looks like here. Yeah, okay. There, now you see the wall, right? Now, the most effective arm swing, like you want to have some power, right? You want to have some power, and the power comes from this point of contact where your body is as leveraged as possible, which means it's straight and pushing down. Now, if I gave you a volleyball, I should have brought a volleyball with me here, but let's pretend this is a volleyball. If I ask you to push at it, right? If you push like this and down, you only have so much power, but the moment you have a straight arm, it is much more powerful. So the more power you have with a straight arm swing, the better. So if you use a wall as an example, maybe we should go back a little bit here. All right, there we go. All right, so if you use the wall, right, this is where the arm swing should be, by the wall, right? So shoulder by the wall. And to have a quicker arm swing, the quicker you could bring this point, get to this point down, the faster, right? And so therefore, what is the most effective arm swing? You use this wall as a guide. And if you stand beside walls, you're gonna find how much quicker your arm swing becomes. Why? Because it's gonna travel the shortest distance. So let's pretend again I measure here, right? And when you're swinging along the wall, you cannot allow the shoulder or hands to hit the wall. So most people who do this, who reach aside, they would be hitting the wall. If there was a wall here, they would be hitting the wall. So what you have to do is keep it along the plane of the wall. Now, the thing is, no one swings like this, right? What happens is, as you're moving up, your torso turns, because the power comes from your ability to use your abs as well as leading with the elbow. And the more angle you can create here, that whipping snap creates power. So abs, leading with the elbow, angle, straight, power. So again, we're not swinging like this. We're actually swinging and turning the torso at the same time. So hand comes up as if I'm jumping, hand comes up, and I'm turning, right? I'm turning. And what I love to do is I love to see the hand almost in front of you and almost above the head as much as possible. So hand comes up, my hands are in front of me, right? Elbows don't touch the wall. And now I have my perfect bow and arrow position, right? My finger's kind of pointing where I'm gonna hit. Like, yeah, I'm gonna hit it right there, right? And so the cool thing about this is when you do this, your elbows cannot drop. Because if your elbows drop and you swing, you're actually hitting the wall. So when you come around and you twist, and then now you're coming back, as you're coming back, right, the elbow comes up. So, see, I could do it super fast. In fact, when we used to practice, we used to go against the wall, all along the wall, and we would do our approach, and we would never hit the wall. And when you do that, you're gonna see, if you film yourself, the swing is, first of all, beautiful, and second, you have maximized the power of your arm swing. Now, let's take that same thing that measures your wrists, right? Now, if I do the laser, what that's gonna do on the computer is watch. Laser, 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 elbow, lead elbow. It's a straight line, it just goes up and down. The line on the computer would just say, well, it's just going back and forth. Versus, like I said earlier, it goes out, in, boom. That's a lot of people who do this fancy looking swing when peppering, right? And when you do this as a habit, it becomes part of your actual arm swing. And so because of doing this, your arm swing is actually so much quicker because the distance itself, biomechanically, is much shorter. So it's a faster arm swing, right? Now, if you want to be strategic, why is this a more strategic arm swing versus this, right? Is because you can actually redirect the ball very easily. So if you're coming up and you see the block, because you're at its highest straight point, it is easy to just quickly redirect right at the last minute. Versus if you're like this and you're going this way and it's so obvious because your whole body needs to shift to make it go that way, it becomes very, very predictable and you can't even switch direction. Now in this case, when you're coming up like this, and then you see some blocks, you could easily just even cut with the wrist or even turn your body, or you're like this, and you see the drifting of the hands of people going this way, you're like this, you can easily switch to this way, or you can even just use your wrists and just slice it and cut the ball, right? And so the arm swing with the wall gives you this ability to even strategically more effective, and it's more powerful. A lot of people get up and they drop the elbow, and again, the pros can get away with it because they automatically get to this position. But even I would argue at the pro level, if you want to protect your body to play longer and more effectively, this is still, to me, the better arm swing. So up again, so I'm gonna do one demonstration. Up, reach high, elbows, lead with the elbow. Now a really cool exercise I do sometimes with some individuals is I tie, if this was a post, I tie a rubber band and we put the rubber band on the elbow, and imagine now it's being an elbow, and all I want people to do is recognize leading with the elbow. If you lead with the hand, it gets less power because now you're creating less of that snap. But if you lead with the elbow, subtly, you're not doing this and this. It's one motion, but the lead is with the elbow. It's very subtle. If you lead with the elbow, it increases power, and then you gotta have to break through the block, or when you cut it, it's gonna be a pretty cool hit. So I think that's it for now. I don't have anything else, but hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Again, just use the wall, up, turn the torso, hands in front of your head and above your head, and lead with that elbow, right? That's it. Oh man, I don't really do this often, so thanks a lot for watching. Peace.